All right, so let's get right into it. We all think we know Walmart, right? But the real story of how it became this absolute giant is way more fascinating than you'd think. It wasn't just about low prices. No, this was a masterclass in strategy, a plan that literally redrew the map of America. And this is the picture we all have of the man behind it all, Sam Walton, the humble, down-to-earth, good old boy from Arkansas. A man of the people who just happened to build the biggest retailer on the planet. It's a fantastic story, but it's only half the story. See, behind that folksy smile was a totally different persona. The reality is that Sam Walton was a cold, methodical, almost military-grade strategist. He wasn't just building stores one by one. He was planning a full-on conquest. So, let's start peeling back the layers of this myth. To really get Walton's master plan, you have to start with his famous obsession with being cheap. But this wasn't just some quirky personality trait. Oh no, it was his primary strategic weapon. This obsessive penny pinching, it probably reminds you of Jeff Bezos building desks out of old doors in the early days of Amazon. It's the exact same logic. For Walton, every single dollar spent on a fancy office or a nice suit was a dollar he was basically stealing from his customers. Every penny saved was just another bullet in his arsenal. And this right here shows you his genius. While all the other big retailers were busy beating each other up over the same big cities, focusing on polished stores and expensive real estate, Walton looked at the rest of the map and saw something nobody else did: rural America. It was a massive, completely overlooked, and totally undefended territory. And that insight led to what you can really only call a 30-year siege. Walton didn't just pop up stores wherever. He executed a systematic town-by-town campaign to completely conquer small-town America. His battle plan was incredibly simple, but man, was it effective. Step 1, find those small towns that everyone else was ignoring. Step 2, launch what was basically a scorched earth price war, slashing prices so low it looked like he was trying to go out of business. And then Step 3, just wait. Wait until you're the only game left standing, a local monopoly. This quote, it sums up the entire ruthless philosophy. Walton would look at the profit margins of the local mom and pop shops, not as a sign of their healthy business, but as a fatal weakness he could exploit. He knew he could afford to lose money for way, way longer than they could. But here's the thing. Those crazy low prices, that was just the bait. The real trap, the move that finished the game, was his logistics system. It was an infrastructure so advanced that it gave him what can only be called an unfair advantage. And this, right here, is where the real genius was. I absolutely love this comparison. Just like Rockefeller figured out that if you control the railroads, you control the entire oil industry, Walton knew that if he could control the flow of goods, he could control all of retail. He wasn't really in the business of selling products, he was in the business of logistics. So, what do you call this strategy? The textbook term is vertical integration. Basically, instead of relying on a whole chain of different companies to get a product to his shelf, Walton decided he was just going to own as much of that chain as he possibly could. And how did he do it? By investing in things that, at the time, must have seemed insane for a retailer. We're talking a private satellite network to track every sale in real time, his own massive fleet of trucks, a whole network of gigantic distribution centers that he owned, placed with military precision. And the result of all this was a radically simpler system. The old way had all these middlemen, right? Manufacturer, wholesaler, distributor, and every single one added their own markup. Walton's model, it just cut them all out. It created a direct pipeline from the factory floor through Walmart's system straight to the customer. For local stores, the impact was, well, it was devastating. Because of this incredible efficiency, Walmart could often sell a can of beans to a customer for less than the local grocery store could even buy it for wholesale. It literally cut off their oxygen supply. How do you possibly compete with that? You can't. So what was the endgame of this 30-year siege? It wasn't just that Walmart got huge. It was a fundamental reshaping of the American landscape. It was the fall of Main Street as we knew it, and the birth of a totally new kind of customer. Just let this number sink in for a second. A 90% efficiency advantage. This wasn't a fair fight. It wasn't even a competition. It was a modern industrial war machine going up against small, independent craftsmen. The outcome was pretty much decided before the battle even started. And so, one by one, the local butcher, the family pharmacy, the corner hardware store, all these places that had been the heart of their communities for generations, they just disappeared. The messy, chaotic, but vibrant world of local retail was wiped clean and consolidated into one single, hyper-efficient entity. And this really is Sam Walton's ultimate legacy. He didn't just change where we shop, he changed how we think about shopping. He literally trained us, the customers, to expect, to demand the absolute lowest price, all powered by a system that's completely invisible to us. And once we all got a taste of that, there was no going back. So the next time you walk into a Walmart and you see that famous always low prices sign, it's worth asking yourself, are you just looking at the promise of a good bargain? Or are you looking at a battle scar left over from a 30-year war that completely remade the world we live in?